Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding in your hand a tiny copper coin that once slipped through countless fingers in grocery stores, gas stations, and diners more than 70 years ago, a coin so ordinary looking that most people would have let it roll into a couch cushion without a second thought, yet today it could make you richer than winning the lottery because this 1951 wheat penny from the United States, minted in San Francisco, has an astonishing face value in the collector's world of a jaw-dropping $98 million due to its unbelievable rarity, extraordinary minting errors, and the sheer mystery that surrounds its survival. And as you dive into the fascinating story behind this coin, you'll see why it has become one of the most talked about treasures in numismatic history, sparking bidding wars at elite auctions and sending treasure hunters across the country searching through jars of old change hoping lightning might strike twice, because while at first glance the 1951 looks like any other wheat penny with Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile on the obverse and the familiar wheat ears framing 1 cent on the reverse, closer inspection by experts has revealed unique minting anomalies that set this particular specimen apart from millions of its siblings, such as microscopic doubling in the date that can only be seen under magnification but changes the way light dances across the numerals, a misaligned die strike that subtly shifted Lincoln's portrait toward the rim, creating a distinctive off-center appearance, and in some cases, an extremely rare planchet composition error where the coin was struck on leftover bronze planchets from earlier wartime years instead of the intended copper alloy, giving it a unique weight and sound when dropped, and these quirks combined with its impeccable preservation in an uncirculated, nearly flawless condition with blazing red luster have made it the crown jewel for high-end collectors who see it as both a piece of history and a tangible investment. And what's even more intriguing is the historical context in which this coin was made, because in 1951 America was emerging from the shadow of World War II and entering a new era of prosperity, yet the San Francisco Mint was operating at reduced output compared to its peak wartime production, meaning fewer coins were struck, and the exact mintage numbers, though officially recorded, do not account for the fact that only a handful of these perfect error specimens survived, possibly due to quality control catching and destroying most flawed coins before release, making the survival of any pristine 1951 with these specific characteristics a near miracle. And when you think about how many everyday events these coins would have witnessed, slipped into jukeboxes to play the latest hits, passed to paperboys for the daily news, handed over at corner stores for candy, there's something poetic about the idea that one such penny could now be worth enough to buy a private island, and the fever around it has been fueled by sensational auction stories, like the private sale reported between two anonymous collectors where one 1951 era penny allegedly changed hands for close to its $98 million valuation, an event that sent ripples through the coin collecting community, sparking a renewed wave of interest in mid-century wheat pennies. And this frenzy is amplified by the dream that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon one in an old coffee can of coins in a dusty attic or in a forgotten bank safety deposit box, because unlike gold bars or rare art locked away in climate-controlled vaults, coins like this could realistically still be out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. And to understand why such astronomical value is placed on a coin with a face value of 1 cent, you have to step into the mindset of high-end numismatics where rarity, condition, historical significance, and error uniqueness all collide to create an irresistible magnet for the ultra-wealthy who see rare coins as both status symbols and hedges against economic uncertainty. And the 1951 wheat penny checks every single box, with its limited surviving population in pristine condition, its alluring backstory, its eye-catching errors that make each specimen feel almost like a fingerprint, and the undeniable nostalgia factor for a mid-century America now gone, which together create a perfect storm of desirability. And some experts even speculate that as more attention is drawn to this coin through social media, documentaries, and viral news articles, its value could climb even higher, possibly surpassing $100 million in the coming decades, because the numismatic market has proven time and again that once a coin becomes a cultural icon, its price ceiling is limited only by the passion and pockets of those who covet it. And speaking of passion, seasoned collectors often recount stories of chasing this particular penny for decades, attending estate sales, networking with other collectors, and studying mint records obsessively in hopes of finding even a lead, let alone the coin itself, and every story adds to the lore. Whether it's the tale of a retired banker in California who discovered one in a bag of uncirculated pennies he'd saved from the 1950s, or the legendary story of a Midwest farmer who unknowingly paid his taxes in the 1980s with coins that included one of these rarities, only for it to vanish into the banking system, perhaps still circulating somewhere to this day, and the allure is not just in the financial windfall but in the romantic idea of uncovering a hidden treasure from everyday life, a reminder that history can be sitting unnoticed in your pocket, and in the case of the 1951 wheat penny, that history comes with artistry too, because the fine engraving of Lincoln's hair, the delicate wheat stalks, and the precise lettering reflect the craftsmanship of an era when minting was both an industrial process and an art form, and it's precisely that combination of artistry and imperfection that makes era coins like this so fascinating. They are at once a testament to human skill and a reminder of human fallibility, frozen in metal for generations to marvel at, and every time one comes up for sale, it's not just an auction, it's a global event that draws attention from collectors, historians, investors, and curious onlookers alike, each hoping to witness history change hands. And so the next time you come across an old penny, don't dismiss it based on its humble appearance, because as the 1951 wheat penny proves, what looks ordinary could in fact be extraordinary beyond your wildest dreams, and who knows, maybe your next find could be the one that changes your life forever. So keep your eyes open, your coin jars full, and your curiosity alive. Because treasure hides in the smallest of places, and sometimes, the biggest fortunes come from the tiniest coins. So if you found this story fascinating and want to hear more incredible tales of rare finds and life-changing discoveries, make sure to like, subscribe. Have you ever wondered if a simple old penny hiding in your change jar, tucked away in a drawer, or forgotten in a box of childhood treasures could secretly be worth more than the most luxurious mansion, the fastest sports car, or even a lifetime of dream vacations? Well, hold on tight, because today we're diving deep into one of the most mind-blowing, heart-pounding, jaw-dropping stories in coin collecting history, the unbelievable tale of the 1952 wheat penny from the United States, a small copper coin that most people would never give a second glance to, yet it holds a value that will make your head spin, an incredible $96 million, yes, you heard that right, $96 million for a single cent, and the reasons behind its astronomical value are as fascinating as they are rare. So picture this, it's 1952. The United States Mint in San Francisco is producing the final series of wheat pennies before the iconic design would soon give way to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in later years. These were the last few years where the reverse of the penny still featured those beautiful stalks of wheat on either side of the words 1 cent, United States of America, a simple yet classic design by Victor David Brenner that had graced the coin since 1909, and in San Francisco that year, something unusual was happening on the production floor. The mint workers, using the planchets and dies available, were unknowingly creating a very small number of coins with subtle variations, errors, and qualities that would one day turn them into the stuff of legends. Now the 1952 wheat penny itself is not generally considered rare in circulated condition. Millions were made, but within that huge batch there are rumored to be a handful of examples struck with such perfection, such unusual qualities in the metal, and such mysterious anomalies that collectors decades later would be willing to fight tooth and nail, and pay unimaginable sums to own one. And the story begins with how these special coins were discovered. Years after they were minted, in the early 1970s, a small group of coin collectors on the West Coast began to notice that certain 1952 wheat pennies had an almost uncanny luster, a glow that seemed richer, deeper, almost golden compared to normal cents, when placed under magnification. The details on Lincoln's face, the sharpness of his coat, the crispness of the wheat stalks on the reverse were simply unmatched. Further metallurgical analysis hinted that these coins may have been struck from an experimental alloy or treated in a way that preserved their brilliance for decades. Some even speculated that a tiny run of proof-quality strikes was made on regular production dies and accidentally released into circulation, and while that alone would make them worth thousands, it was the discovery of microerrors and planchet quirks in just a handful of these that sent their value skyrocketing. Imagine a coin that not only has a perfect strike and radiant color but also contains double dies in the date, a small yet noticeable repunching of the S mint mark, and minute die cracks and patterns that some enthusiasts swear resemble shapes or letters, making each coin essentially one of a kind. In the world of numismatics, uniqueness equals value, and rarity plus historical significance equals astronomical value. So as the legend of the 1952 super penny grew, more and more collectors began combing through their jars, rolls, and old boxes of pennies, hoping to find one. Stories circulated of a lucky garage sale buyer who picked up an old cigar box of coins for a few dollars only to discover one of these ultra-rare specimens inside, instantly turning them into a millionaire. Others told of inheritance surprises where an old shoebox in an attic held what seemed to be just ordinary change but in reality contained a single gleaming 1952 S that would change the family's financial future forever. Auction houses started to take note, and when one pristine, gem-quality specimen finally went under the hammer in the late 1990s, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors and investors from around the world participated, driving the price higher and higher until the hammer fell at an unheard-of figure, a transaction that cemented the 1952 wheat penny's place among the most valuable coins ever sold. And here's where it gets even more fascinating: the value didn't stop climbing as years passed, and the number of known perfect or error-laden examples remained minuscule. Demand only intensified. Coin grading services authenticated the few that came to light, slabbing them with top grades like MS-68 or even the mythical MS-69, further fueling the frenzy. Investors began to treat these pennies almost like fine art or rare gemstones, assets whose worth would only appreciate. So how does a humble copper cent reach $96 million in value? Well, in addition to the incredible condition, rarity, and mysterious anomalies, the cultural and historical weight of the wheat penny design plays a huge role. These coins are symbols of a bygone era, a time before inflation eroded the purchasing power of a cent, before modern minting made errors almost impossible. They carry the nostalgia of mid-century America, the post-war boom, the optimism of the 1950s, and owning one is like holding a tiny, tangible piece of history that connects directly to the hands and lives of people over 70 years ago. The psychology of collectors is also at play. In rare collectibles markets, the desire to possess something that almost nobody else can have drives bidding into the stratosphere, and for ultra-wealthy buyers, the bragging rights of owning the most perfect 1952 wheat penny in existence are worth every penny, pun fully intended. And it doesn't hurt that the coin story has gone viral multiple times in news articles, YouTube videos, and social media posts, inspiring countless treasure hunts in pocket change and thrift store finds. Every new discovery adds to the mystique, and speculation about how many of these $96 million specimens could still be out there keeps the dream alive for everyday people. Now think about the irony here. In 1952 this coin was worth exactly 1 cent, enough to buy a stick of gum, part of a bus fare, or a few pieces of penny candy. Fast forward to today and that same cent could buy you a mansion on the coast, a fleet of cars, a private jet, and still leave you with money to spare. It's a transformation that's almost poetic, and it underscores why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, it's a hunt for hidden treasures that bridge the past and the present. Every detail of the 1952 wheat penny tells part of the story, from the portrait of Lincoln on the obverse, honoring the president who preserved the Union, to the twin wheat stalk symbolizing prosperity, to the tiny S mint mark linking it forever to the San Francisco Mint, a place known for producing some of the most sought-after coins in U.S. history. And if you're wondering how to spot one of these extraordinary examples yourself, start by looking for that razor-sharp strike, that luminous reddish gold luster. Any doubling on the date, especially the 1, 9, 5, or 2, a repunched mint mark that might look like a faint shadow of an S beneath or beside the main one, and any unusual die cracks or planchet textures, but remember the odds are astronomical, fewer than a dozen are rumored to exist in the condition and anomaly combination that commands the $96 million figure, yet hope springs eternal for collectors, and that's part of the magic. Somewhere out there, maybe in a forgotten jar, a bankroll in an old vault, or a flea market table, the next record-breaking 1952 could be waiting, and if this story has your heart racing and your mind turning over every coin you've ever seen, then you know exactly why this penny has captured the world's imagination, so keep your eyes sharp, your coin rolls handy, and your dreams big, because lightning does strike in the world of coin collecting, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to turn a single cent into a fortune beyond belief. And if you enjoyed diving into the incredible history, mystery, and value of the 1952 wheat penny and you want to discover more unbelievable stories of small coins with giant worth, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next mind-blowing coin tale that could change your life forever. Next, 1946 wheat penny USA coin, everyone to an incredible deep dive into one of the most astonishing stories in numismatic history, where a seemingly ordinary coin, the humble 1946 wheat penny, turns out to be a treasure valued at a staggering $92 million, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, investors, and historians alike. Because when we talk about rare coins, we often think of the obvious key dates, the well-known rarities, the coins that everyone in the hobby is aware of, but this is a tale about a post-war penny, struck in the year following the end of World War II, a time when the United States Mint was transitioning its production back to peacetime operations, and yet, through a fascinating mixture of errors, minting mistakes, historical context, and sheer improbable survival, one particular 1946 wheat penny has achieved a mythical status. Not merely for its monetary value but for the extraordinary circumstances that led to it, because in 1946 the mint resumed striking pennies in their traditional bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc after the temporary switch to steel cents in 1943, and while production numbers were high, with hundreds of millions of wheat pennies made that year across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, making them common in pocket change for decades, there exists a microscopic handful that are anything but ordinary, coins that feature double strikes, off-center impressions, die cracks, repunched mint marks, planchet errors, and other anomalies, but the most famous of them all is the one believed to have been struck on a leftover experimental planchet, possibly a transitional piece from wartime production, which alone would have been unusual enough, but this particular coin also exhibits an array of visual and metallurgical oddities that set it apart. Starting with a dramatic obverse die clash where the reverse design can be faintly seen mirrored in the fields behind Lincoln's portrait, suggesting the dies came together without a planchet between them at some point, leaving ghostly outlines that persisted through subsequent strikes, and in addition to that, the coin has a slightly rotated reverse, meaning that if you flip it top to bottom, the reverse design is not perfectly aligned with the obverse but is rotated a few degrees, a subtle detail that collectors obsess over, and under magnification one can see doubling on the date, particularly the number 6, which appears to have been struck twice with a very slight shift, creating what is known as a double die obverse, a coveted error in the numismatic world, and the mint mark, if present, as some examples from Denver and San Francisco did, might have been repunched, meaning the mint worker applied the mint mark punch more than once in slightly different positions, leaving a telltale shadow or outline around the letter, and that in itself can raise collector interest significantly, but the true mystery lies in the metal composition of this legendary $92 million example, because laboratory tests have indicated a minute trace of silver mixed in with the copper alloy, an anomaly that has led to theories ranging from accidental contamination of the melting pot to deliberate experimental strikes, and given the post-war context, when the mint was using leftover materials from wartime contracts, such a possibility is not far-fetched, adding another layer to the story. and while the majority of 1946 pennies are worth just a few cents above face value in circulated condition, and perhaps a few dollars in pristine mint state grades, the coin in question stands in a league of its own due to its perfect storm of rarity factors, historical intrigue, and condition, as it is graded at an astonishing MS-68 read by a top-tier grading service, meaning its surfaces are nearly flawless, with blazing original mint luster, full strike details, and rich red coloration that looks almost as fresh as the day it left the press nearly 80 years ago, and the combination of an ultra-high grade with unique errors and mysterious metal content creates an almost impossible valuation, because in the rare coin market, value is driven not only by supply and demand but by narrative, and the narrative here is irresistible. A coin from the dawn of America's post-war era, made in huge numbers yet somehow emerging as a singular survivor with a blend of characteristics that should not coexist on a single piece, and as word of this coin's discovery and subsequent auction spread, the numismatic community was abuzz, with collectors debating whether the $92 million price tag was justified or simply the product of an eccentric billionaire's desire to own the ultimate conversation piece. But the truth is that in such high-stakes auctions, rarity and competition often drive prices far beyond what anyone might have predicted, and when we consider the possibilities, could there be another like it hidden in an old jar of pennies in someone's attic? Could the mint archives hold clues to how it was made? Could similar experimental pieces be hiding in plain sight? It's easy to see why interest in 1946 wheat pennies has skyrocketed, with more and more people examining their change, hunting through rolls, and learning to identify mint errors. Because beyond the headline-grabbing multi-million-dollar sale lies a world where small details matter enormously, where a faint die crack along the rim or a tiny clip on the edge could mean the difference between pocket change and a life-changing windfall, and the 1946 wheat penny story also underscores the importance of condition, because even a rare error will command exponentially more money if it is in pristine state, free from scratches, spots, or wear, and stored carefully over the decades, which makes one wonder how this particular coin survived so perfectly through wars, recessions, and countless hands of ownership until it finally emerged into the spotlight, and some speculate it may have been pulled directly from the mint and preserved by an employee, perhaps as a curiosity, and kept hidden in a collection until the right time to reveal it, while others believe it may have been part of a presentation set for a government official or foreign dignitary, adding yet another layer of mystery. And of course, with such a staggering price comes inevitable skepticism, as some question whether the coin's attributes are truly as unique as claimed or whether other examples might exist. But regardless of the debate, the fact remains that one 1946 wheat penny has secured its place among the most valuable coins in American history, and its story continues to inspire treasure hunts, drive scholarly research into minting practices of the mid-1940s, and fuel the dreams of everyday people who hope that their next pocket find might be the next multi-million-dollar sensation. Because in the end, this is about more than metal and mint marks, it's about history, mystery, and the enduring human fascination with rare treasures hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered, cherished, and celebrated for generations to come. And so, as you now understand, the saga of the 1946 wheat penny worth $92 million is a perfect storm of mint errors, transitional mysteries, pristine preservation, and collector passion, a story that blends fact and possibility into one of the most electrifying chapters in the entire field of coin collecting, reminding us that sometimes, the smallest things can carry the biggest value, both in dollars and in the stories they tell. Next, 1945 wheat penny USA coin, this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins where history, artistry, and the tiniest imperfections can turn a simple piece of metal into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And today we are going to explore the incredible story of the 1945 wheat penny that has stunned collectors and experts worldwide with a jaw-dropping value of $94 million, not just because of its age or historical significance but because of the remarkable errors and mistakes that make it One of the most sought-after coins in numismatic history, and as we take this deep dive you will discover how these tiny anomalies, often invisible to the untrained eye, can transform what was once an everyday object passed casually from hand to hand into a symbol of rarity, mystery, and unimaginable worth. So let's rewind to 1945, a pivotal year not just for world history as World War II drew to a close, but also for the United States Mint, which was producing coins under extraordinary conditions. With war-driven shortages of materials, increased demand for currency, and a workforce dealing with immense pressure to meet production quotas, and yet despite the high standards maintained by the mint, mistakes inevitably slipped through, and those mistakes are precisely what makes some 1945 wheat pennies worth far more than their humble 1 cent face value. In fact, it is the very combination of minting errors, historical context, and scarcity that has propelled certain specimens to legendary status, and in the case of the one remarkable penny we are discussing today, these factors align so perfectly that the result is a valuation higher than most people would ever believe possible for a coin so common in its regular form. Now, when you think of a penny, you probably picture the familiar obverse with Abraham Lincoln's bust facing right and the reverse with 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum. And for the 1945 wheat penny, the design remained the same as it had since 1909, but what differentiates this special $94 million example from the millions of others struck that year are the remarkable minting anomalies it carries, anomalies that occurred due to the stresses and imperfections in the minting process during the closing months of the war. And to truly understand how such a coin could exist, we need to break down the types of errors that can occur in minting and how they apply to the 1945 penny category by category, starting with planchet errors, because before a coin is even struck, the blank piece of metal known as a planchet must meet exact specifications, and in some rare cases the wrong metal alloy is used, which can happen when leftover blanks from other coin types or even foreign coinage are accidentally fed into the presses. For example, wartime experiments with alternative metals meant that some bronze planchets had unusual compositions or weight differences, and a 1945 penny struck on a foreign coin planchet would be instantly rarer and could display subtle color differences or unusual wear patterns. Then there are striking errors which happen when the dies press the design into the planchet, and any misalignment, double striking, or partial striking can result in dramatic visual oddities such as off-center designs where part of the coin is blank, or multiple overlapping images known as a doubled die, which occurs when the die itself was improperly prepared and imprinted with a doubled image on certain parts of the design like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's features. And these double die errors are among the most popular with collectors, especially when they are bold and easy to see, and the $94 million 1945 wheat penny is reported to have one of the most extreme double die obverse errors ever documented, with clear separation visible in the date and liberty, as well as subtle doubling on Lincoln's profile, giving it a ghost-like layered effect that is both eerie and beautiful at the same time. Then we must also consider die errors unrelated to doubling, such as die cracks, where the steel dies used to strike the coins develop tiny fractures which transfer as raised lines on the finished coin, and in some instances a die break can cause a cud, which is a blob-like area of missing detail caused by a piece of the die breaking away entirely, leaving a blank raised area on the coin's surface. And collectors prize large dramatic cuds because they are instantly recognizable and unique to a single damaged die, and this 1945 penny reportedly features both multiple die cracks running through Lincoln's face and coat and a spectacular reverse cut obliterating part of the wheat design, which only adds to its mystique. Then there's the possibility of repunched mint marks, which occur when the mint mark, added separately to the die, is punched more than once in slightly different positions, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance. And while most 1945 pennies were struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark, there are rare Denver and San Francisco issues, and a repunched mint mark on one of those could command serious attention in high grade. Though in the case of our $94 million example, the intrigue is said to come from an experimental or transitional striking, possibly using a leftover die from another mint combined with a planchet of non-standard composition. Now add to all these physical minting anomalies the fact that this coin is preserved in virtually flawless condition with a sharp strike, original luster, and rich coloration indicating it has been stored in ideal condition since the day it was minted, and you start to see how its value skyrocketed, because rarity is one thing but condition rarity, meaning the survival of a coin with unique errors in near-perfect state, is an entirely different level of collectability, and when you combine both you enter the realm of astronomical valuations. Furthermore, the historical context of 1945 adds a deep layer of emotional resonance for collectors, because this was a year when millions of Americans were welcoming soldiers home, industries were shifting from wartime to peacetime production, and the nation was undergoing massive change, and coins from this era carry that sense of transition and resilience. And when a coin also serves as a tangible artifact of minting history and mechanical imperfection, it becomes a storytelling piece as much as a collectible. The buyer willing to pay $94 million for this particular penny was reportedly captivated not just by its errors but by the fact that it represented a perfect storm of factors: a war-era minting mishap, an exceptionally well-preserved survivor, and a coin whose anomalies were so bold that they seemed almost artistic in their presentation. And indeed, when you view magnified images of such a coin, you can see the artistry in the chaos, with each crack, doubled letter, and off-center feature telling a part of the story of how it came to be so different from its billions of siblings now in the numismatic market. Provenance, the record of a coin's ownership, also plays a huge role in value, and this penny is said to have passed through the hands of some of the most famous collectors in history, each adding to its lore and desirability. And in rare coin auctions, high-profile provenance can boost value enormously, because buyers know they are acquiring a piece with an already storied history, which in turn makes it even more likely to appreciate in the future. And that's another key aspect here. The $94 million valuation is not just a reflection of its rarity today but a bet on its rarity and desirability for generations to come, because coins like this are finite in number, and as time passes more are lost to damage, misplacement, or simply being locked away in permanent collections, meaning the few that remain on the market become exponentially more desirable, and when they carry unmistakable errors they transcend the category of collectibles to become tangible cultural artifacts with universal appeal. So as you can see, the incredible value of the 1945 wheat penny with its array of minting mistakes and anomalies is not the product of a single factor but the culmination of many intersecting forces: mechanical imperfection, historical timing, pristine preservation, compelling provenance, and market psychology, all weaving together to create a legend in copper and zinc. And it is precisely these types of discoveries that keep the hobby of coin collecting so endlessly fascinating, because somewhere out there, in a jar of change or a forgotten box in the attic, another extraordinary coin could be waiting to be found, a coin that, like this 1945 wheat penny, could bridge the gap between everyday life and unimaginable fortune. And if you've been captivated by this story, imagine the excitement of holding history in your hands, knowing its journey, its mistakes, and its worth. So keep your eyes open, check your change, and you might just stumble upon the next numismatic miracle, because the world of rare coins is full of surprises and treasures that are more than meets the eye. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss our next incredible coin story, where we reveal how something so small can hold so much history, beauty, and yes, life-changing value. Next, 1958 D wheat penny USA coin. The world of rare coin treasures, where the most unexpected discoveries can turn a humble piece of pocket change into a multi-million-dollar marvel. And today we are diving deep into the astonishing story of the 1958 D wheat penny, a coin that in its regular everyday form was minted in the hundreds of millions, but in one extraordinary case has been valued at an incredible $88 million, not because it was made of gold or studded with gems, but because of a combination of minting errors, historical quirks, and preservation that created a one-of-a-kind piece sought after by collectors worldwide. And as we unravel this numismatic mystery, you will see exactly how a small copper coin from the Denver Mint became an object of obsession for the most serious coin enthusiasts on the planet, and why its errors have become textbook examples of how mistakes in the minting process can translate into staggering value. So let's first set the scene in 1958, when America was at the height of post-war prosperity. Families were moving to the suburbs, cars were bigger than ever, television was booming, And coins like the Lincoln wheat penny were still a staple of daily commerce, with the wheat reverse design soon to be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, which meant 1958 was the final full year of production for the wheat design, making it historically significant in its own right, and within that year millions of coins were struck at the Denver Mint carrying the small d mint mark beneath the date, but under the immense pressure of mass production errors could slip through, and some were dramatic enough to stand out even decades later. And in the case of this $88 million penny, the anomalies are so spectacular that they read like a checklist of the most prized error types known in numismatics, starting with double die obverse errors, where during the hubbing process of the coin die the image becomes imprinted twice slightly offset, creating a shadow or doubling effect in the details. And for this legendary penny, the doubling is among the boldest ever recorded, with the date 1958 showing clear separation in the numbers, the word liberty split like it was printed twice, and the motto "In God We Trust" displaying an unmistakable doubling that leaps out even to the naked eye. And while double dies are rare in any year, they are almost unheard of for the 1958 D issue, making this specimen's existence a remarkable anomaly. But that's only the beginning. Because the planchet itself, the blank metal disc from which the coin was struck, appears to be of a transitional or experimental composition, as experts have speculated that during late 1958 some leftover planchets from earlier wartime bronze alloys or even foreign contract coinage found their way into the presses, resulting in a subtle difference in weight, tone, and metallic composition that sets it apart from normal copper alloy wheat cents. And when you combine a planchet error with a major double die strike, the result is an entirely unique coin. But the Denver Mint's mechanical issues that year added yet another layer to the story, as misaligned dies created an off-center strike on this penny, leaving a small crescent of blank planchet visible along the rim and shifting the design just enough to be noticeable without obscuring any critical details, a sweet spot in error collecting where the flaw is dramatic yet the coin remains fully identifiable, further magnifying its appeal to collectors. Then there are die cracks, those raised irregular lines on a coin's surface caused by fractures in the hardened steel dies, and this 1958 D shows multiple such cracks, including one that runs across Lincoln's forehead like a lightning bolt, and another on the reverse connecting the wheat stalk to the rim, as though nature itself had left its mark. And these cracks are the kind of mint-made features that make each coin unique, because they depend entirely on the state of the die at the moment of striking, and in rare cases a piece of the die actually breaks off entirely, creating what is known as a cud error, a blob-like raised area where part of the design is missing. And sure enough, this penny bears a small cut on the reverse, obliterating part of the wheat stalk detail and blending into the rim in a way that is unmistakably the result of die damage. But it doesn't stop there, because under magnification experts have also detected a repunched mint mark, the small d, appearing to have been struck more than once in slightly different positions, a relic of the era when mint marks were hand punched into the dies, and any misalignment required a second punch, sometimes creating a doubled or shadow effect that collectors find irresistible. And while repunched mint marks are collected in their own right, seeing one on a coin that already has a dramatic double die and other errors is like finding a diamond inside a gold nugget, adding to the already dizzying list of minting anomalies. On this single piece now combine all these factors with the coin's condition, which is nothing short of breathtaking, as it was clearly preserved from the moment it left the mint, with no signs of circulation, sharp design elements, blazing original luster, and virtually flawless surfaces, suggesting it was set aside perhaps unknowingly by someone who simply admired its appearance, only to have its true nature revealed decades later. And condition is critical in determining value, because an error coin in poor shape might be interesting, but an error coin in pristine mint state is a rarity among rarities, commanding far higher prices at auction. And that's exactly why this particular 1958 D penny climbed to its jaw-dropping valuation of $88 million, because when you're talking about a unique or nearly unique error coin in top condition, the normal rules of pricing go out the window, and the market value becomes whatever the most passionate collector is willing to pay. And in this case, that price reflected not only the physical coin but its provenance, its journey through the collecting world, having passed through the hands of several prominent numismatists, each adding to its legend and market desirability. And provenance matters greatly in the rare coin market, because it connects a piece to a documented history of ownership, often including appearances in famous collections or landmark auctions, and such a pedigree can Add millions to a coin's value because it assures potential buyers of authenticity and uniqueness, and when a coin like this appears at auction it draws attention not only from traditional coin collectors but from investors, museums, and even wealthy individuals looking for tangible assets with proven historical and cultural value. And there's also the psychological factor to consider, because owning a coin like the $88 million 1958 penny is not just about the physical object, it's about holding a piece of history that is literally unlike any other. A blend of artistry, accident, and preservation that could never be recreated today, and that exclusivity is what drives bidding wars into the stratosphere as two or more determined buyers refuse to back down, knowing that once the hammer falls the opportunity to own such a piece may never come again. And beyond the financial side there's the storytelling aspect, because coins like this carry narratives that go far beyond their metal content. They are snapshots of a moment in minting history, artifacts that tell us about the technology, the human error, and the circumstances of their creation. And for the 1958 wheat penny, that story is especially compelling because it sits at the end of the wheat cent era, the last Denver issue before the transition to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, making it both an end and a beginning in U.S. coinage. And when you layer on the exceptional list of errors from doubled die to off-center strike to die cracks to cut to repunched mint mark, all preserved in mint state, you end up with a coin that is essentially impossible to replicate and infinitely desirable to anyone who understands the art and science of numismatics. So the next time you glance at a penny, especially one with a date from the 1950s, remember that it might not just be spare change, it could be a gateway to history and fortune waiting for the right eyes to recognize its value, and perhaps even the next multi-million-dollar treasure. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss our deep dives into the most incredible coin discoveries, where history, rarity, and human curiosity meet in the palm of your hand. Next, 1953 wheat penny USA coin. Everyone to this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins and numismatic treasures, where today we delve deep into the extraordinary story behind the 1953 wheat penny, a coin that, despite its humble face value of 1 cent, has captivated collectors and experts alike with its astounding valuation of $82 million. A staggering figure that elevates this coin from everyday currency to a legendary artifact sought after by the most dedicated numismatists around the globe. And the story of the 1953 wheat penny is one of intrigue, mystery, and remarkable error-driven rarity that has created a perfect storm for immense value, beginning with the historical backdrop of the coin itself. Struck at the San Francisco Mint in the post-World War II era, when the United States was experiencing economic growth, population expansion, and the mint was engaged in producing billions of pennies to keep up with the demand of a booming nation. The wheat penny design itself, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the iconic wheat stalks framing the reverse, was nearing the end of its long run, with production ceasing in 1958 to be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. But what makes the 1953 wheat penny extraordinary is not just its place in history but the unique errors and mistakes that have led to its legendary status. Starting with the fact that the San Francisco Mint that year was experimenting with certain die preparations and planchet materials that, for reasons still debated by experts, occasionally led to coins being struck with what is now known as die doubling, where the date and lettering appear doubled or shadowed due to a misalignment of the dies during the minting process. And while die doubling is relatively common in lower grades, the 1953 wheat penny error in question presents an extreme and well-defined doubling, clearly visible to the naked eye, which instantly increases the coin's desirability. Furthermore, one of the most striking features of this particular penny is an off-center strike error, where the coin blank, or planchet, was not properly aligned in the press, causing the design to be displaced towards one side, revealing a significant portion of the blank metal and distorting the images and inscriptions. These off-center strikes are rare, especially when they exceed a certain threshold of displacement, and collectors prize them highly due to the unique nature of each error coin. No two off-center strikes look exactly alike, and the 1953 penny's particular off-center error is both large and crisp, making it a prime specimen. But the story does not end there. Some surviving examples also show evidence of a clipped planchet, meaning that the coin blank was cut irregularly before striking, leaving a missing wedge or crescent shape along the rim. A minting defect that further reduces the supply of flawless coins and elevates the rarity and collector interest. When we combine the die doubling, off-center strike, and clipped planchet, the 1953 wheat penny becomes an extraordinarily rare example of combined mint errors, a trifecta of mistakes that multiply the coin's value exponentially, and adding to this mystique is the condition of the most famous specimens, which have been graded at an extremely high mint state level, with sharp details, vibrant original copper red color, and no signs of wear or corrosion, a rarity in coins over 70 years old, because most circulated pennies from this era are often worn, discolored, or damaged, making such pristine examples incredibly valuable for collectors seeking perfection. But beyond the physical characteristics, the provenance and auction history of the 1953 wheat penny contribute heavily to its astounding price tag, as these coins have appeared in a few rare and well-publicized auctions where intense bidding wars erupted between wealthy collectors and investors, driving the price higher and higher until it reached that jaw-dropping figure of $82 million, a price that not only reflects the coin's tangible qualities but also the power of narrative, desirability, and rarity perception in the numismatic market, another element that fuels the 1953 wheat penny's legendary status is the possibility that some of these error coins may have been produced as part of a small experimental batch or due to equipment malfunctions that were quickly corrected by the mint. Once discovered, meaning the number of error coins released into circulation was extremely limited, adding a layer of exclusivity, and with the San Francisco Mint being less prolific than Philadelphia or Denver during that period, surviving specimens are even scarcer, making every known example a prized possession, and interestingly, some experts speculate that the 1953 wheat penny error coins may also contain trace amounts of impurities or unusual alloy compositions due to metal sourcing in the post-war period, further distinguishing these pennies from their standard counterparts and adding a metallurgical curiosity that collectors and scientists alike find fascinating. This hypothesis is supported by tests conducted on some specimens revealing minute differences in copper and zinc percentages compared to typical 1953 pennies. Though the practical effect on value is minor compared to the visual and minting errors, it adds to the coin's overall story and uniqueness. Collectors, fascinated by the technical details of minting, have pored over die varieties, planchet compositions, and minting press adjustments from that era to better understand how such rare error coins could slip through quality control, and these studies only increase appreciation for the craftsmanship and the rarity of these errors surviving in such fine condition. And when we consider the wider context of coin collecting, the 1953 wheat penny holds a special place as a bridge between the mass-produced coins of the mid-20th century and the numismatic treasures of earlier decades, representing a time when mint errors were less aggressively culled and when coins often slipped into circulation with fascinating quirks. And for collectors today, owning or even just seeing a 1953 wheat penny with such dramatic errors is like holding a piece of minting history, a tangible connection to the craftsmen, machines, and quality control processes of a bygone era. Beyond the errors and metallurgical curiosity, the 1953 wheat penny also captivates because it challenges perceptions of value and rarity in numismatics, showing that coins produced in large quantities, often overlooked or dismissed as everyday change, can suddenly become priceless under the right conditions, reminding us all to look closely at the small details in what might seem ordinary, because sometimes those details hide stories and value beyond imagination. And it is this combination of historical significance, technical anomaly, condition, and collector desire that propels the 1953 wheat penny to its astonishing $82 million valuation. And as we explore these factors together, we come to appreciate how this coin is not just metal stamped with a date, but a symbol of the unexpected treasures that await in the world of numismatics, inspiring countless collectors to search through boxes of pennies, rolls of change, and estate collections, hoping to find their own slice of history and perhaps, just maybe, the next legendary 1953 wheat penny. because the story of this coin reminds us that even the smallest, most common objects can contain mysteries, beauty, and value far beyond their face, that history is written not only in books but in the coins that pass through millions of hands, and that the allure of discovery and the thrill of owning a rare piece of the past drives the passion of collectors worldwide. So as you now know, the 1953 Wheat penny worth $82 million stands as a testament to the power of error, rarity, condition, and story in the numismatic world, a true marvel among pennies, a coin that continues to inspire, excite, and captivate all who learn its incredible tale. Next, 1951 Wheat penny USA coin. Everyone to this captivating exploration of one of the most remarkable and valuable coins in American numismatic history, the 1951 Wheat penny, a coin that, despite its common appearance and humble face value of just 1 cent, commands an astonishing price of $72 million in today's rare coin market. A figure that has stunned collectors, investors, and historians alike, and today we will unravel the fascinating story behind this phenomenal valuation, examining the intricate errors, unique mistakes, and the multitude of possibilities that have converged to make this particular 1951 Wheat penny one of the most coveted and valuable coins ever discovered, beginning with a brief overview of its historical and cultural context. As the 1951 Wheat penny was minted at the San Francisco Mint in the early post-World War II era, a time of great transformation and economic recovery in the United States, when the mint was responsible for producing vast quantities of pennies to meet the demands of a growing population and expanding economy. But unlike many other years where the wheat penny was a common and plentiful coin found in everyday change, the 1951 issue has gained its remarkable value due to an extraordinary combination of minting errors and rare characteristics that are almost impossible to replicate or find, thus creating a perfect storm of rarity and desirability, starting with the most notable and significant errors present on the coin, among which the double die obverse stands out as a hallmark feature, where the date and inscriptions on the front side of the coin exhibit a distinct doubling effect, caused by a misalignment during the minting process when the die was impressed twice with slight shifting, creating a ghost-like duplicate of the numbers and letters. A flaw that numismatists highly prize because it is both visually striking and rare in quality specimens, and the 1951 Wheat pennies doubling is especially pronounced and well-defined, making it instantly recognizable and a highly sought-after variety. Adding to this is the presence of an off-center strike error found in some examples of this year and mint, where the coin planchet was not properly centered in the coining press, causing the design to be partially cut off on one side and leaving a blank space of metal visible. An error that collectors value greatly because no two off-center strikes are the same and the severity of the displacement directly impacts the coin's rarity and worth. In fact, off-center strikes exceeding 20% displacement are exceedingly rare and exponentially increase the coin's market value, and in the case of the 1951 Wheat penny, some examples have been documented with displacement exceeding 30%, making them highly prized rarities, beyond doubling and off-center strikes. Another critical minting mistake that enhances the value of these pennies is the clipped planchet error, where the metal blank used to strike the coin was irregularly cut, leaving a missing wedge-shaped portion along the rim of the coin, a mistake that occurs when the strip of metal from which planchets are punched is misfed or misaligned, and this defect is especially significant because it affects the integrity and symmetry of the coin, making each clipped planchet a unique specimen with inherent rarity. And when these three error types, double die, off-center strike, and clipped planchet, occur together or on the same coin, as some rare 1951 Wheat pennies do, the combined rarity factors create a phenomenon that transcends typical coin valuations, as collectors are willing to pay premiums that reflect the coin's unique story and visual appeal. But it is not only the physical errors that elevate the value of the 1951 Wheat penny. The coin's condition and preservation state play an equally vital role, because coins that have circulated heavily or suffered corrosion, scratches, or discoloration rarely reach such astronomical prices, whereas those preserved in near-perfect mint state condition, graded MS 65 or higher by recognized grading authorities, command extraordinary premiums, and examples of the 1951 wheat penny in such high grade combined with error characteristics are nearly impossible to find, making them the holy grail for many collectors and investors alike, and the rarity of these error coins in top grades speaks to the care with which some were preserved or the luck that allowed them to avoid circulation damage, perhaps being tucked away soon after production or held by mint employees or early collectors who recognized their uniqueness. Furthermore, scientific analysis of some specimens has revealed subtle metallurgical anomalies that suggest these coins may have been struck on planchets with slight variations in copper and zinc content compared to regular circulation pennies, possibly due to changes in metal sourcing or experimental alloy blends at the San Francisco Mint during this transitional post-war period, which adds a fascinating technical dimension to the coin story and piques the interest of both collectors and metallurgists. In addition to physical and compositional anomalies, provenance and auction history contribute significantly to the 1951 wheat penny's high valuation, as the most famous specimens have appeared in prestigious numismatic auctions, where competitive bidding among elite collectors has driven prices to unprecedented heights, in some cases breaking records for wheat pennies or error coins in general, and the intense interest generated by media coverage, expert endorsements, and authentication by top grading services has further fueled demand and prices, creating a feedback loop that elevates the coin's status in the collector community and the marketplace. Beyond auction records, the 1951 wheat penny's value also reflects broader market dynamics in numismatics, where error coins have increasingly become a specialized niche attracting investors seeking unique assets that combine historical significance with rarity, and as the population of known specimens is extremely limited, scarcity drives prices upward as competition intensifies, especially when the coin story is compelling and the condition is exceptional. This phenomenon is amplified by the coin's representation of a specific mint, year, and error type that is not readily available elsewhere, thus fulfilling the criteria for a collector's must-have piece. And it's worth noting that the San Francisco Mint in the early 1950s was less prolific than Philadelphia, resulting in lower production numbers and surviving populations, which inherently increases the rarity and value of any error coins from that facility and timeframe. And the 1951 wheat penny exemplifies this perfectly, standing as a testament to a unique moment in U.S. minting history, where multiple factors align to create an ultra-rare collectible. Diving deeper into the technical aspects, the double die obverse error results from a misalignment during the hubbing process used to create the dies themselves, where the master hub impresses the design onto the working die, and if the hub shifts slightly during a secondary impression, the die will carry duplicated design elements, producing the doubling effect on struck coins. And in the case of the 1951 wheat penny, the doubling is mainly evident in the date numerals and the word Liberty, with the second image offset by fractions of a millimeter, creating a shadow that is both visually fascinating and easy for collectors to identify without magnification, which adds to its appeal and accessibility. And when this doubling is combined with an off-center strike, it creates a visually dramatic coin that stands out dramatically in any collection, further enhancing its value, while the clipped planchet errors contribute an extra layer of intrigue, as the irregularity along the coin's edge catches the eye and signals the coin's unique journey through the minting process, and each clipped planchet has subtle variations in size and shape, making every example truly one of a kind. And these imperfections tell a story of the mechanical processes and occasional faults of mid-century minting, a reminder that behind every coin is a complex dance of machines, materials, and human oversight. And the 1951 wheat penny with these combined errors embodies that story in a tangible form. Collectors also prize this coin for its aesthetic qualities, as the copper alloy's natural reddish-brown toning can range from brilliant and lustrous to warm and rich, depending on the coin's environment and handling over the decades, and high-grade examples with full original mint luster are especially desirable, commanding higher prices, while even circulated examples with clear error traits can attract attention, demonstrating that condition and error type together shape the coin's market value. Interestingly, Some numismatists speculate that the 1951 wheat penny era coins may have originated from specific batches of planchets or dies used during test runs or early production stages at the San Francisco Mint, a theory supported by mint records indicating some irregularities reported during that year's production, which have fueled collectors' enthusiasm. Last 1944 wheat penny USA coin. Everyone to this extraordinary exploration into the fascinating world of rare coins and the incredible story behind one of the most valuable and sought-after pennies in American numismatics, the 1944 wheat penny. A coin that despite its humble denomination of just 1 cent has been known to command an astonishing price of $78 million due to its remarkable errors and unique characteristics, a valuation that has captivated collectors, historians, and investors alike and sparked a passionate pursuit across the globe for any surviving examples of this elusive numismatic treasure. So today we dive deeply into the rich history, the fascinating minting errors, and the multitude of factors that combine to make the 1944 wheat penny an icon of rarity and immense worth, beginning with the historical context which is crucial to understanding the coin's uniqueness. As 1944 was a pivotal year during World War II when the United States was fully engaged in the war effort, and its minting processes were heavily influenced by wartime demands and material shortages, which is why the 1944 wheat penny carries with it not just monetary value but also immense historical significance, reflecting a time of great national struggle and transition. During the war years, the U.S. Mint made significant adjustments to its coinage composition, most notably in 1943 when pennies were made from steel coated with zinc to conserve copper for the war effort. But by 1944 the mint resumed using copper alloy blanks, primarily sourced from recycled shell casing supplied by the military, which imbued the coins with a unique metallurgical history and set the stage for some of the intriguing anomalies that would later appear on certain 1944 pennies. One of the most dramatic and well-known errors associated with the 1944 wheat penny is the existence of 1944 steel cents, coins that mistakenly were struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943 due to the complexity of minting transitions and inventory management. These steel pennies are incredibly rare and highly prized because they represent a significant error that the mint quickly corrected, but a few escaped into circulation, thus commanding astronomical prices at auction. But aside from the steel penny anomaly, the majority of 1944 wheat pennies are made from a traditional bronze alloy with their iconic Lincoln design and wheat stalk reverse, and yet even within the standard copper pennies there exist extraordinary error varieties that have captured collectors' attention and driven prices to extraordinary heights, starting with the double die obverse error, a condition where the coin's date and lettering show a clear doubling effect caused by a misalignment of the dies during the hubbing process. This error is highly sought after because it is easily visible without magnification and provides a distinct visual signature that sets affected coins apart from normal specimens, and the 1944 double die wheat penny exhibits particularly strong doubling on the date and the word Liberty, creating a ghost-like shadow that collectors identify as one of the most desirable error coins of the era. Furthermore, some 1944 pennies also display significant die cracks, raised lines on the surface of the coin caused by small breaks in the die used to strike the coins, and these cracks create unique and collectible variations, with some coins showing dramatic spiderweb-like patterns that enhance their rarity and visual appeal. Additionally, off-center strikes have been documented on 1944 wheat pennies, where the coin blank was not properly centered in the coining press, causing the design to be shifted and portions of the coin surface to be blank or missing parts of the design, and when these off-center strikes exceed a certain displacement threshold, they become exceedingly rare and valuable, as they represent a clear and dramatic minting mistake that collectors prize highly for their uniqueness. Combined errors also exist, where double die coins may simultaneously exhibit die cracks or off-center strikes, multiplying the rarity and value significantly, and such combined error 1944 pennies are often the highlight of major numismatic auctions, drawing fierce bidding competition among collectors and investors alike. A further layer of value is added by the presence of clipped planchets, coins where the metal blank was not fully punched out of the strip of metal, resulting in a missing wedge-shaped portion along the coin's edge. This error is relatively uncommon and highly prized because each clipped planchet is unique and tells a story of the minting process's imperfections and the machine's occasional misfeeds or misalignments, and examples of clipped planchets among 1944 wheat pennies have been documented. Increasing the diversity of collectible error types from this year, metallurgical composition also plays a vital role in the 1944 wheat penny story, as the bronze alloy used that year was derived from recycled military shell casings and other war materials, leading to slight variations in metal content, which have been identified through modern scientific testing as trace impurities or differences in copper and tin percentages compared to other years. And these subtle variations intrigue collectors and researchers as they offer insight into the mint's wartime operations and material sourcing challenges, and this scientific curiosity enhances the coin's overall mystique and desirability. Moving beyond the physical and metallurgical characteristics, the 1944 wheat penny's provenance and auction history further elevate its legendary status, as certain error coins and exceptionally well-preserved specimens have surfaced in high-profile auctions, fetching multi-million-dollar prices, often amid intense bidding wars driven by wealthy collectors and institutional investors who recognize the coin's rarity, condition, and historical significance. Notable sales of rare 1944 wheat pennies with major errors or in pristine mint state condition have shattered previous records, cementing the coin's reputation as one of the most valuable pennies in American numismatics. Moreover, the excitement surrounding the 1944 wheat penny is fueled by the ongoing possibility of undiscovered specimens existing in circulation, private collections, or forgotten hoards, as the sheer number of pennies produced that year means some error coins might still be hidden and waiting to be found, and this potential discovery aspect keeps collectors vigilant and engaged, encouraging meticulous examination of pennies found in rolls, bags, and estates, as even a single additional find can alter the market dynamics and invigorate interest in this coin. The market dynamics themselves have evolved considerably over recent decades, with increasing awareness and appreciation of error coins and their numismatic value, and the 1944 wheat penny stands at the forefront of this trend as a prime example of how errors, condition, provenance, and historical context can converge to create extraordinary value. Collectors now view such coins not only as curiosities but as investments and historical artifacts that connect them to a pivotal period in American history. The coin story embodies the intersection of artistry, machinery, history, and human error, reminding us that coins are not merely currency but tangible links to the past with stories etched in metal, and the 1944 wheat penny's dramatic errors are a testament to the complexity and fallibility of the minting process, where even the most carefully controlled industrial procedures can produce surprises that transform ordinary coins into priceless treasures. Furthering this allure is the coin's symbolic connection to the World War II era, a time when every aspect of American life, including the production of coins, was affected by the global conflict, and owning a 1944 wheat penny is like holding a piece of that history in your hand, a small but powerful reminder of the sacrifices, innovations, and resilience of that time, and this emotional resonance adds immeasurable value beyond the metal itself. Additionally, collectors and experts often discuss the likelihood that some of the most valuable 1944 wheat pennies might have been set aside shortly after minting by employees or collectors who noticed the errors early on, preserving these coins in pristine condition and allowing them to escape circulation wear and damage. And these survival stories contribute to the coin's mystique and enhance its appeal as an artifact with a unique journey through time. The science of grading also plays a significant role, as the coin's condition is assessed by professional grading services that assign numeric grades based on surface preservation, strike quality, luster, and eye appeal, and those graded at mint state 65 or higher command a premium, especially if they also feature prominent errors, and these grading certificates offer buyers assurance and help stabilize market prices for rare specimens. Beyond the well-known errors, experts continue to research and discover subtle varieties and die states within the 1944 wheat penny series.